I'm gonna go ahead and kind of get started here. So I want to talk, today's topic is what to do when your listing isn't selling. And this is actually really timely for things we have going on. So, I want to have some plenty of time at the end to kind of talk about some different, like any other ideas, because there's a lot of things that you can do. But I want to kind of talk about like the state of where we're at as far as like an industry first. And so right now we're at a place where right at 23% of our listings are currently taking a price cut. I mean, we're talking almost one out of four is taking a price cut, and that's compared to like 13, 14% in past years kind of thing. So it is pretty significant right now. The other thing we got going on is that inventory is increasing, which is overall really, really good. We are still not where inventory was pre-COVID necessarily. We're still down about 9% here in Georgia from where inventory was. That being said, we are 33% up in inventory this year versus last year. And so that poses a pretty unique, or not unique, but a newer situation for listing agents right now. Just this past month, the numbers came out that the typical US home was selling for 1.8% less than its asking price, which means that for years now we've had where we were averaging overall about 100% of our list price, and now we're at 98% of our list price. That doesn't mean that we're seeing price reductions or price cuts. We're not seeing where property values are declining. It's just so where sometimes our sellers are being a little bit more optimistic, I guess you'd say, on the front end there. Also, over half, 56% of our listings out there are sitting on the market for at least 60 days now. Overall, days on market has shot up. We're into the mid 50s on days of market overall, depending on if you look at Georgia MLS or FMLS. So times are kind of changing a little bit, and I'm not saying that it's any of y'all, but we have seen in the past years where a lot of listing agents, and again, I'm not pointing any fingers or anything, but a lot of listing agents took the approach of just the basics when it came to listing property. I'm gonna put it in the MLS. I'm gonna sign the yard. I'm gonna put a lockbox on the door, and I'm just gonna pray. And when we had so many more buyers than we had sellers, I can't say that didn't work. I mean, if you look at summer of 2021, like there was just so many buyers, not enough properties. That did work, but like we've got to kind of change our tactics a little bit. And so what we're seeing is that we're having a lot more listings sitting on the market for significantly longer periods of time. That's making our sellers a lot antsy. And then we are having listings that are not selling. So when it comes like the first thing you have to do is when you have a listing not selling, and let me just say this real quick. I get this question a lot, and I'm sure that Neil, you probably do too. Like, I got a listing and it's not selling. What do I do? And that's really what the basis of this whole thing is. And so the very first thing you got to do is you got to kind of go back and start looking at your listing. You got to look at what you've really done. And so unfortunately, I find that most of the time we know already why a listing isn't selling. We can be like, well, what can I do, and that kind of stuff. And really, I think the question should be, how can I sell an overpriced listing? Is normally one of the biggest challenges out there. Is that because that's really what we want to do. Hey, I know this listing is not priced right, but my seller's getting antsy. So the first thing you got to look at is you have to acknowledge, if do you already know the reason why your listing isn't selling? Because it's not, there's not enough lipstick we can put on a pig to make an overpriced listing sell. I mean, there's chances that we get lucky, that kind of stuff, but it's really hard to base your business on chance out there. So, if you know the reason, and a lot of times it is price. Most of the time it is price that we need to address. It's not always though. And so, I want you, first of all, let's answer some questions on your listing when you have a property that's not selling. And so, our buyers make two decisions when they're looking at a property. First one from the street, the second one when they walk in the door. How's your property look when they first pull in on the driveway? When they pull in, Do they not want to get out of the car? Because we'll see where a lot of them won't. And then once they open that front door, what's that look like? If it's not warm and inviting right from the front door, it's gonna shoot you right in the foot. Um, you know, are there repairs that needs to be done? And does the price reflect the repairs that need to be done? Paint and carpet allowances, I'm not a fan. We find that paint and carpet allowances hurt our marketing time, and they also in your seller ends up paying twice for them because nobody replaces a full price offer on a property that has a paint or a carpet allowance. With a paint and carpet allowance, what you see is that the offer price is normally going to come in at least the amount of the paint and carpet allowance plus the paint and carpet allowance. So it normally costs your seller twice. I realize not all sellers have the ability to do it, but then it becomes a pricing issue. We can't sell a property that for a price that matches up with the best looking homes in the neighborhood if this isn't the best homes in the neighborhood. You need to pull a fresh set of comparables, a real, true CMA, not one that has high hopes. Sometimes I'll ask for a CMA from one of our agents, and I'll get a 1 mile radius or a half-mile radius around a neighborhood. And meanwhile, they'll overlook the homes inside the subject neighborhood and be like, well, this one over here is more like the new one. Well, you can't discredit the homes that's in the subject property's neighborhood. Those are going to be the ones proximity really matters. And that's what an appraiser is going to use anyway. So don't shoot yourself in the foot. Make sure that you're using really good comparables. Start from inside your subject neighborhood, work your way out. See what do those other homes have that yours does or doesn't have, kind of thing, when you're pulling your comparables. And then compare that to where your price. Is your price correct? I would say the vast majority of the time it isn't. Other questions that you definitely need to ask yourself. So did you take professional photography or did you try and go cheap and just do it? If not, you need to prepare to do that right now. Did you do video? If not, like if you are like one thing I love to do is I love to do video because a lot of times we'll meet the photographer at the property, have him do video with you, kind of thing. It'd be a really great way to go ahead and get that done. Did you get premier exposure on Zillow for your property? I'll talk about that a little bit more on here. Did you wordsmith your listings with ChatGPT? We really like to use ChatGPT to write our listings. We will write it inside ChatGPT, and then you always have to read it, but it does a great job of really wordsmithing your listings. You have to make sure it doesn't violate fair housing because it will talk about people and not just about property, but it can do a really good job on there. Did you mark it on price or did you mark it on price and payment? So what does a mortgage look like for this particular property? How much is that mortgage really going to run them, kind of thing? Does this property qualify for any down payment assistance programs? Are there any DPAs, because those can be nice talking points depending on where it is, right? Is it in a USDA area? Because that could be real beneficial for a lot of folks for 100% financing. Does it, if it's downtown Atlanta, is it part of Vine City or any of these other kind of ones that have separate down payment assistance, some of them which you can stack up? Does your seller have an assumable mortgage? This doesn't always work. Actually, it rarely works. However, it's another marketing tool that you can use to market your listings. If your seller does have an assumable mortgage and it's at 3.5%, there's a lot of buyers out there that would be very interested in considering that. It may not work out. They may not have the cash up front to do it. But again, this is a really good thing for you to be putting out there. Did you hold an open house beforehand? Because maybe not now might be the time to as well. Um, and then two other things I want you to think about before we actually get into marketing the home is who's the perfect person to buy this house. Like, because when you start preparing your marketing, if the perfect buyer is a first time buyer and all your marketing tailored towards investors, that may not be the best thing. I like to ask the seller, why did they buy this house? What do the sellers love about this house? Because those are all really good marketing reasons that you should use. when it comes time to actually market your home, right? Because if this is the reason that your seller bought the house, well, then that's going to be a really smart way to be about it, kind of thing. Um, um, all right, I saw we had a request. Jasmine wants me to talk about subject twos, and we will talk about those in just a minute because we are getting a bunch of those on listings that have been here for a while. So I know Neil's seen a ton of those too. So we will talk about the subject twos here in just a second. So good topic. All right. So at this point, you know your listing's not selling. You pulled a new set of comps. You've gone through and you've answered all these kind of questions about what you need to do. Now, you need to be ready to talk about concessions. And smart listing agents understand that concessions can make or break your deal on here. A lot of times, listing agents don't even consider concessions, and I find that to be a mistake, right? Because when you think about it, the concessions are to the benefit of who? Concessions are to the benefit of the seller. I know that they're for the buyer. I get that, but the whole idea of why we're going to do these is to help market and promote this listing. So like the whole thing here is like you prepared all these things and you prepared a CMA, go meet with your seller. If you do not go meet with your seller soon, if you're having a hard time, you're going to end up losing this listing. That's really where it goes down. So you got to sit down with your seller, right? And so at the same time, pull out your comparative market analysis, because what you want to avoid here is like there's this saying in real estate, right? The early bird gets the worm, but the second agent sells the house. And so you don't want to lose this listing to the second agent that gets that seller to position their home in the right way in order to get it sold on the market. And so sit down with your seller, make an appointment, go meet with them, show an updated set of comparables, show what the other homes have in there. At the same time, be ready to discuss concessions. Now's the right time to do it. Like think about it, like why do all of our builders offer concessions? They do it because they work, right? They help them sell homes. So here's where we've got to grab the bull by the horns. You already got your seller sitting down. You're talking about all the other comparable sales and listings that compare to their property. And so can we also look at maybe we aren't going to revise the price as much, but maybe we're going to offer concessions. I mean, that's one thing that's kind of taking it from the playbook of the builders. Like our builders don't drop price. They offer more concessions, right? And so is our seller open to concessions? Talk to our seller about how these buyer concessions are there to help them sell the home. And so some options that we have, right? Can we throw in $1,000 bonus if it's sold by a certain date? We can definitely try that. Can we offer a certain amount towards closing costs? $3,000, 4,000, $1,000 towards closing costs. Now it can, and that can be used for, that closing cost is a really broad term. We don't normally use that term a lot because sometimes agents have a hard time envisioning what closing costs really is. And so I like to be much more specific when it comes to 1 year free home warranty. We're going to pay for 1 year of property taxes. We're going to cover your HOA for the next year. We're going to buy down here's $3,000 to buy your buyer's rate down, or $5,000 to buy the rate down for your buyer. These kind of things can be really, really beneficial. This is also going to give you additional talking points, marketing that you can do in exposing the home to the marketplace. A lot of folks are just being like, hey, here's a picture of the home, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom, yada, yada, yada. But now you've got these concessions you can use these in marketing this property out into the marketplace. So you're going to talk about price, you're going to talk about concessions all at the same time, and you want to revise your marketing plan. You need to come up with an updated marketing plan, and you want to do this with your seller, right? Because at this point, you're 60, 90 days in, the seller's starting to lose confidence. I mean, I'm just being honest, right? It's not pleasant. We don't like having to acknowledge that, but this is going to be the key to not losing your listing. When agents lose listings, it's because they have stopped communicating. The sense of dread comes in. They start feeling like a failure. They start sometimes feeling like, well, they're not going to lower the price, or they're not going to do this, and and so like sometimes I see listing agents that just kind of give up. If you will ramp up communication, come up, talk about concessions, different things that you can do, help market the property, get your seller to kind of come along, and then revise your marketing plan. This is going to be a big key to helping you get this property kind of re-energized here, kind of thing. So now what I want you to think about is so you met with a seller. Now it's time to relist your property or remarket the property. So a couple other things I want you to do before you actually list the property. And that is going to be, I want you to contact your lender, get a rate sheet from your lender with all the pricing. What's a 30-year fix? What's a 3-2-1 buy down going to run? What are ARMs? What's the FHA? I want to know what payment is really going to be running on this property, because sometimes it's really great, especially if you have properties that are on the lower end. We're seeing this really successful where agents are saying, look, if you're paying more than $2,200 a month in rent, you can own this house, kind of thing. So getting this from your lender, this is not to help out the lender. This is to help out you to be able to market this property. Know what kind of payments that folks are going to be need to bring for this thing. Anything that you can do along those lines is going to help you to market this property. Professional photography. If you haven't done it, get it. Okay. Like you can go through the MLS right now and you can tell the pictures that where an agent did them on their phone, and they never look great. So like make sure you get professional photography. If you've already done professional photography, be ready to reorder, change the order up, change the front photo, that kind of stuff, because we want to make sure that it looks fresh. Wordsmith your listing again. Go through and now that hopefully you've talked to your seller about what they love about the property, what the key highlights of the property are. So like we'll pull out ChatGPT and say, look, I need a 450 word listing description, for this property at this address with these components. I want to highlight, these 4 or 5 things, whatever it is, boom, let it spit it out and kick it out there for you. Give it the tone that you want it to have, those kind of things, then revise it, but get it ready to go. The other thing I want you to do is I want you to go out and I want to prepare a buyer packet. This is a packet for anyone who's going to come view this property. It's going to have like an open house flyer. It's going to have rate sheets on there. It's going to have your seller's property disclosure in there. Sometimes you'll have an agent bio and those kind of things, because it's great, especially to use on like open houses, that kind of stuff. You want it to have a QR link to the property website in there. But like that's just one of those things that goes to the next level, but you prepare these ahead of time. Are you going to use Zip My Flyer to send out to other top real estate agents? One thing I love to do, which is incredibly old school, but still works really good, and that is yard signs with flyer boxes. When putting the old flyer boxes out there, you'd be surprised how many people still will stop and get your information out of that flyer box out there. So prepare some flyers for your property. Now, go in and, at this point, hopefully are you going to run an open house? But are you going to run a smart open house, or are you just doing an open house for the sake of shutting up the sellers, right? Because a well-run open house is different. And I know that we're talking about selling your listing. A small percentage will sell at the open house, but your sellers will feel better when you do open houses, generally speaking. Now, if you have a seller that has like someone that can't leave the home or those kind of, not every house should have an open house, but sometimes you need to ramp up your activity and your engagement. So maybe an open house is going to be the right thing for you to do. You also want to start preparing some social ads and posts talking about the property and those kind of things. I love video, and I think video is a really big deal, but I think a lot of times listing agents miss out on taking listing videos that have a purpose, right? Because a lot of folks will just, they may get a listing video from the photographer. They may just do a quick walkthrough. And I don't have a problem doing walkthrough. Matter of fact, I think a walkthrough video is great. But when you do a walkthrough, the whole thing is you want to make sure that you give your name, your contact information, and then walk through the property in here because you want them to call you. But then you also want to do shorter videos talking about the key selling points for the property. And so if your seller has decided to do different concessions, then you want to do short videos that inside the property talking about what those seller concessions are, or it qualifies for 100% USDA financing, or yada yada yada. But these short videos are great. I mean, the average video on TikTok is like 17 seconds. So you have YouTube Shorts, you have Instagram, you have Facebook, all these places where you can be running these short videos. I like to do quick coming soon videos on there as well. Price, I like to do a video that talks about price. Again, we're always going to hand that off to a lender, but just say, the average buyer right now, with a medium credit score should be in this price range for this home right now with this much down. And then a video inviting folks to your open house. Like this, a listing really is a marketing powerhouse. You have a great chance to get out. I hope that you're using your listing, not just to sell this listing, but to actually get more buyers and sellers out of it, kind of thing. Because when you're doing this, the exact same thing is going to happen. Yes, you're going to sell this property, but hopefully you're going to get another listing and maybe get a buyer for this property or another one as well. So don't, like this is multifaceted what you can really do with this property here. Now, when it comes time to relist, I like to take it off for a day, a week, a month, depending on the situation, kind of thing. But I like to take the property off the market at least for a day or two, kind of thing. But then take it off, and then I want you to relist it as if it's brand spanking new, right? I want you to get it out of your head that this property has already been listed once, because obviously a lot of people didn't see it last time, or there were some features that weren't highlighted, or we've adjusted the price. But like, first thing is get your head wrapped around the fact that this is a new listing, because you took it off, that old listing is gone. Just let it just out of your head. Now you want to relist it as if it's brand new. And so this time we're going to put some lipstick on this pig, and we're going to get this thing rocking and rolling. So are your pictures professional? Keep talking about that. Have you rewritten your listing description? Do you need new photos, or are you going to rearrange the photos? It's okay to rearrange the photos. Just make sure you do change the order in here on there. Make sure you highlight all the new changes, updates. See, the thing is, just treat it like it's brand new. We also like to list our property on Thursdays. We find Wednesday night or Thursday is the best day of the week. Actually, we don't find that. The data proves it. Redfin did this big study and said that properties listed on Thursday sell for 5% more than any other day of the week. And that's because so many agents set up showings for the weekends on Thursdays and Fridays, and they show Saturdays and Sunday. So relist your home on Thursday. We love to hold an open house that first Saturday after we relist the property. That works out really, really good on here. Jasmine just said, yeah, virtual tours help a lot. They absolutely do. So many people want that virtual tour, want that walkthrough. One of the things that I'm going to strongly encourage you to do is please use Kubicasi and get a floor plan. Buyers love floor plans, and it's so hard to envision what a property looks like. And now Kubicasi is part of FMLS and Georgia MLS. There's no reason why your listing should not have a floor plan and then a virtual tour as well. These are all things that help that assist the buyer in seeing what it would be like to walk through, really understand the space, that kind of stuff. Once your listing actually does go live, please get it Premier Zillow exposure. Now, in order to do that, you're going to have to use the Zillow 3D Home app. Zillow 3D Home app is the resource that you're going to use to be able to do Zillow video. So just like all the other social media platforms want people to do video, if you want to do video on Zillow, you have to use the Zillow 3D Home app to do it. You'll open it up. log in with your normal Zillow login credentials kind of thing, and it'll ask you if you want to do a home tour. See, if you'll go in and you relist the property and do all those kind of things, and then you go in, open up this app after the listing is live, it will ask you if you want to do the home tour, and you say yes, and then you go through and you record the video inside that app. It automatically, pushes it all together, makes one big video for you, and then it uploads it to the Zillow site. Now, Zillow, on like when folks go to Zillow, all the properties that show up on the screen over there, all that is coming from where all the properties listed there are all properties that have Zillow tours, Zillow 3D video. Now, this is not a 3D tour. You can get a fancy camera and do all that kind of stuff, but really having a video up there, those are the properties that are going to get the best exposure. In addition to that, you want to make sure that you're sharing this property on all your social channels. You need to put out, whether it's your website links or your property flyers, it needs to go onto Facebook, Instagram, into your database. You want to be able to share this property out with everybody in your database. Please do that. I'm so amazed how many times we don't share our listings inside our database. It absolutely needs to do that. You can also go inside both Georgia MLS and FMLS, and you can do reverse prospecting. And so all you do is open up anyone that's looking for property or set up save searches that matches up with the key features of your property. It's all you do is sending their agents a reminder, an email about, hey, this property now qualifies for this, or this property has this over here. Resend that out there. Consider going in and boosting the property. And so, I really like the boost through, KV Core has a really good boost that works out really, really good on there. AdWorks does another one as well. So, I like doing that also. And then are you going to hold an open house? We like to hold an open house the very first weekend that we either list or relist the property, because it probably has, I hate having an open house where we've already sold the property and then you have to cancel it and do all those kind of things. But if you are going to do an open house, and I strongly encourage you to do it, the other thing why I'm a big fan of open houses right now is because of buyer brokerage agreements. I know that sounds weird, but we have a lot of people, consumers that, because so many agents are doing buyer brokerage agreements the wrong way, they're very apprehensive to fill out a buyer brokerage agreement. And so we're seeing where the attendance at open houses is going up because they don't have to sign with anybody. And so, I'm letting the people come in, that kind of stuff. But this is still a great opportunity for you to build business and for you to hopefully take them as a buyer as well. But like holding that open house can be a really important part, but you have to treat it the right way, right? And so you got to go through and you got to prepare the open house. We put out 15 signs on our open houses, and some people are like, well, that seems awful excessive, but we went through the whole process of trying different numbers. At one point we tried 30, and that was just overkill. So right at 15 signs is great. We send a lot of people that just drive by and see the sign on there. You want to also have a list of other properties that they may want to consider, because you want to try and take those people even if they can't buy this house. On there, you want to make sure you have your flyers ready, everything ready to go. I also like to send out, just listed postcards. We a lot of times we'll just hand those out inside the neighborhood on open house day, because I want the neighbors to see what's going on, because maybe I can get another listing that way. And then at that point, it's just about working the crowd, talking to people, engaging with them, and building more relationships on here. You also want to make sure that you are, like doing a text and email campaign that's tied to your listing. Does everybody in your database, have they all gotten a text message? Have they all gotten an email coming on there? You just, price reduced or whatever it may be on here. Send any of these things that we talked about earlier that would be any of your seller concessions. when it comes to marketing, those are all your call to action items. And so these are all talking points for you to send out, whether it's in text or email in there, to be able to talk about the story about selling this house. And so, that's really kind of the big piece here for me um on how we relist property. We do have a couple other comments in here that folks wanted to ask about. So Jasmine said agent events and classes are great to share too. That is absolutely true. If like having different like broker opens, there's a time and place for broker opens. I think that those can really help, especially if you have a property that has any kind of really unique qualities, those kind of things. It can really help out to have different things that you're doing at broker opens, at open houses, those kind of things. We did also have a question very on, and Neil, I don't know if you want to chime in here, but we are getting a bunch of these folks that are they're doing the subject to offers. And in my opinion, these are giant scams, to be for lack of a better term. So you have a listing. Normally, it triggers it at 60 or 90 days, and all of a sudden, you get this email in from another agent, and it's got like 10 documents attached to it, and it says, "Look, full price offer." And then sometimes there's a video, sometimes there's a 4-page document explaining how good a subject to offer is for your seller. And if someone has to do that, first of all, know that they're hiding something. So there's some real problems with subject twos. The first one is that they're trying to use the seller's basically they're trying to use the seller's financing. They're trying to take a seller who's just gonna, like your seller already has a mortgage on the property, and they don't, and so they want to take and say, look, I'm going to give you $10,000, $15,000, and then I'm going to pay you this much every month, kind of thing. And what they're really planning on doing is turning around and leasing the property, but it's with the seller's mortgage. So all they're going to do is they're going to use the seller's money, they're going to use the seller's equity, they're going to lease the property. What happens if that renter messes the property up? Your seller still owns the property, right? What happens if the bank decides to call that mortgage? Because in a lot of cases you can't run that mortgage that way. So what if what if the bank calls the note on there? I know you and Neil have a lot more things that kind of go along with this, but I am I hate the subject twos because I find them to be kind of predatory, is my feeling. Any of your thoughts here, Neil?
We don't get a lot of those. If we do, the agents never tell me.
Okay.
And I believe if they got one, they would because they ask questions about everything else. So I'm sure they would ask on this. But yeah, we don't get a lot of those. Our biggest scam right now is the vacant land where
Land.
they're trying to list it and it's not their land. So that's kind of the biggest scam we're dealing with right now. Um, Now, I've said that. Now, moving forward this month, I'm probably going to see it'll start happening right after I say it's not happening to us. I did want to piggyback on like some of the things you went over. I think it's important, especially when a home is sitting and it hadn't been selling. If the seller sees that you're doing things and you're doing what you can, and you got to make sure they know. You can't do stuff and it be a secret. Like copy them on things you post. Make sure they see what you're doing. That way, when you do have the conversation about price, they know you've exhausted everything else. So what's left? If that's the only thing left. But I know we have an investor, his daughter's an agent with us, and she's a very young agent. I'm actually just finished mentoring her. And he had properties that were in Bryan County, which I'd have to look on a map. I don't even know where that is, but it's an investment property in Bryan County. And he was concerned about it being on the market too long. There was like 2 homes and wanted my opinion. So I went in, I did the comps for that county in that price range and that size home. and his had been on the market about a month, but the average, um, days on market for that market was 78 days. So my conversation to him was, I've looked at the comparables, and honestly, it appears, now I don't know that market, I don't know that area, but it appears you're not overpriced by, and typically that's the thing. I said, I'll be honest, maybe you don't do anything with the price until you get closer to that 78 days. And of course, he agreed. And then within a day to 2 days, I did see he did, which I don't consider it a price drop, but I guess he did. It was somewhere between like 500 and $1,000. Well, I don't consider those price drops, but they're just to get it to pop up on the MLS, right? As a
Yeah.
price reduction.
Yeah. $1,000. You need at least $1,000 for it to last for a week.
Yeah. So, but he did that. And sure enough, like within a week or so, that home did go under contract. It has closed. And I know I saw an amendment for a price reduction today on another one. Um, but it's just important to know the market because you can't go, you look at statistics, and if they're statewide statistics, it's different for every county.
Hmm.
And anyway, but that's just my thing. It's important that if your seller sees you're doing things, because you're going to, if they don't see it, it's your fault. In their mind, it's your fault it's not selling, regardless of if it's overpriced or not. But if they at least know you were doing things and you were trying and you're checking in with them. Now, I'm saying this not because I'm good at it. I never was good at follow up. Um, like I'd have a showing and my wife would say, did you get feedback? And I said, well, they didn't make an offer. I guess they're not interested. And Amy's like, you need to get feedback from that agent because the seller wants to know something. And I would do it. And, but I also know that sometimes when you ask for feedback, they just rattle off something just to get you off their back. Now, and sometimes it can be valuable. It just depends. But the biggest thing is, like you said, as cheap as technology is today to do a video, to post stuff, and for them to see you are putting their property in front of people. And if it's not selling, okay, now we need to have a conversation. This is what I've done to try to market your home. What else can we do? Is there anything that any budging on the asking price that would,
Yeah.
help?
I don't normally, ask them. I try and come in with a lot of different options there personally.
Mhm.
One other thing that I've kind of learned over the years, like when, early on in our careers, when we got a listing, we just took any listing, right? I didn't care. Yeah, no problem. Let's go. And then I learned over time that I will fight for for the right list price in the beginning.
Mhm.
I know that for a lot of folks, they'll just take and don't get me wrong, I've been there, right? I'll take that listing. I'll take any listing. I want my name in lights, right? I want to sign in the yard. I want to get it in the MLS. I want to be, like I'm a real boy, right? So I want to get it out there. But then you find out that, like doing all those things that we talked about on an overpriced listing, it just feels like a kick in the gut, right? Like I'm doing all
Mhm.
this work and it's overpriced. And so now I'm not going to say fight with the seller, but I will negotiate with the seller and say, look, here's the reality of it is that if we don't get to where, this is what a buyer's willing to pay in this market, then at this point, you're going to think that I'm a failure and you're going to blame me. And
Mhm.
so we will do we will talk so much more about price in the beginning now. Or if we have to go back and talk about a price reduction, we will go there again. Because if you don't, like the data kind of shows, right? Like that second agent sells the house. Roughly, 50% of properties get relisted with another agent. And then like 80% of them sell almost like, and then 80% of them took a price reduction. So obviously, if the seller's willing to take a price reduction with another agent, why wouldn't they take one with you, right? And so, but sometimes we just kind of back off. We don't want to feel like we're
It's
being too pushy, and I get it, no one wants to have to go in and say, like, this price is too high, or look, we started too high. Sometimes you have to fall on the sword and be like, you know what, we missed our mark because obviously our price is wrong. And
So,
sometimes you just do get it wrong.
so overall, listen, in fun experience, I have lost listing in the past. Okay. And it's because my lack of communication. So if you put on your calendar at least once a week to talk to the seller, whether or not it's any news, no news, good news, bad news. And if you are very upfront in the beginning, say, listen, I know you're listed too high, but understand that you need these financial obligations to meet whatever you need to meet. I'm willing to work with you and list at this price, but understand we will have a conversation 2 weeks later if we get either no traffic or no offers.
Mhm.
And given the stat, be confident with your listing presentation, because if you're not, they're gonna think once again you're incompetent, and that's the bottom line. And
Sometimes listings take a long
even
time.
though they may go with a second agent, and what happened is that now they heard it the second time.
Mhm.
Instead of seller admitting they're at fault for not listening to you first, it's easier to deal with a second agent, seriously, and then admit they made their own mistakes. So therefore, they, rather say, I made a mistake, I should have listened to you first, so I'm going with second agent because we're starting out fresh. And that
Mhm.
happens sometimes. So it's not always your fault. So please don't think it's always your fault, especially if you're upfront with the client and they just won't listen. And this is where you as an agent have to make a decision whether or not you won't take on the listing, and understand you may have some marketing costs if you don't write your listing to where if they terminate prior to expiration date for whatever reason, that they reimburse you back for those marketing expenses.
Well, not every
Okay?
listing is good.
So,
No.
but
Yeah.
anyway, at the end of the day, the bottom line is to make sure that you talk to the client on a weekly basis, whether or not there's news, no news, bad news, good news.
Great
Okay.
advice.
And this is what's going to keep them engaged, and also giving your marketing plan what your plans are. And say, I tried ABC, I tried EFG, I tried, this is, you know, I don't know what else to do at this point, because obviously the buyers out there does not think your home is worth the price you're asking for at this point. And so therefore, just gotta tell them, people only gonna buy what they think it's worth. If they don't think it's worth it, then we won't sell it. No matter how creative you are with your marketing and how much you blast out, at the end of the day, it's about pricing. So, and that's the thing I want to leave. And now Jasmine had a question about subject two. And because we've seen some down here, I do want to talk about it really quick. Subject two can be very, very intrusive and also very aggressive. What they do, some of these folks the way it works is that the person will actually take possession of the title of the house. So by giving the seller a very nominal amount, anywhere from 10 to 15,000, plus paying the seller's agent compensation. Okay. And what happens, they take the property in their title. Now the buyer can technically sell the property. Okay. And seller has no choice. So the problem with that is that some of them do use what we call third party to make sure the mortgage is paid. Okay. Because it's seller's liability at this point. Their credit online, their debt to income ratio, if you have pulled credit report, that is online, and not the buyer. It is a cheap way for buyer to get into a project, basically flipping it or do something else. There's nothing wrong with it as long as all parties understand how this works. Now, some of the subject to are also very aggressive. What they'll do is that they'll put a lien on the property for the amount they given the seller and the buyer's agent compensation. And so even though they may not take the title or ever close on the property, there is a lien because in the language of the addendum, it allows them to do that. And the way it's written is so evasive that unless you understand what the addendum is talking about, you won't catch that. So I have asked all my agents, if have any addendums or amendments or anything like that you don't understand that's off GAR, RE, or new construction, the standard of new construction, forward to me before you guys sign off on anything, because you may be getting your client involved in something you're not aware of. And also, there's also a new one called Novation. Okay, it's very similar to Subject 2. What they did is that I just closed on one. That's how I knew about it. The seller basically gave the buyer what they call novation, is appointing the buyer as attorney in fact. Okay, they bailed the seller out of foreclosure. And so for that services, they're getting their money back plus a premium. And so you're not, even though the seller still signed the contracts and everything else, the attorney in fact actually controls, and sometimes don't be surprised that you have to do amendment to where you state the buyer who bailed out the seller as a signer authorized attorney in fact for the seller. So that's another one that I'm seeing where a lot of agents are pursuing, folks are near foreclosure point, bail them out of foreclosure and aggressively market. They've done their comps, okay? So for example, if the house is worth $400,000 and the payoff is only $250,000, but the seller for some reason got their head stick in the sand and do not want to deal with anything, and now they got a foreclosure notice. It's too late to list it and what have you, and they're just buying time. And so you have folks that come in making an offer and bail them out. And all it does is extend their time there for another 90 to 120 days. The agent know they can market this property for around 350 and get it sold just like that. Okay. And what they'll do is that, when they bail out the seller, they say, listen, your payout's 250. We're gonna give you $40,000 at closing for your equity versus 150 that you're entitled to, because by then sellers then stuck their head in the sand and waited too
Hadn't
long.
dealt with it, yeah.
And so it's better for them to get something versus nothing at all. So the novation folks, the investor bails them out will receive whatever differences between the list price, the payout, and the 40 grand. So that's how that's being worked right now. There's a thing called novation. So if you guys see it, let me review the contract and I'll let you know what's going on. And some of them are very kind of sketchy. They won't tell you it's a novation till you actually have under contract. So, but Subject 2, please be careful, because I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of nuances, and I have seen some of the structure a little more aggressively than the others. And you just need to make sure you read. Now, Jasmine, one of my agents, she reads everything and she questions everything,
Yeah.
which is great, because she's kind of teach me sometimes. I learn stuff through you guys half the time too, because you guys are dealing out with different situations sometimes. And also, she catches things and asks me for the interpretation. And so, through those process, we learn as well.
Please
And
hit us
if I
up
don't
for
know it,
when you get those and you get a client who's thinking about accepting one, talk to us first. I
yeah.
guess that's probably one of the best
Anything
pieces of
off GAR
advice there.
RE that's not GAR RE, any special step or amendment or addendum you don't understand, we need to look at it.
Yeah. Let us save you time, trouble, and pain down the road. One other thing I did want to say really quickly about listings that sit on the market. Sometimes some properties need seasoning. And what I mean by that, we have a listing and it's on 18 acres with a really high-end home on 18 acres. You're looking for a very specialized buyer. This is not going to be a 60-day sale. And so sometimes that doesn't mean you don't need to keep your communication going. You still have to talk to the seller all the time, and they'll be like, any activity going on, and it's hard, but like sometimes properties like that, especially anything that's very unique, they're going to need more seasoning time. You're looking for that needle in the haystack on there as well. Now, we talked about a lot of different options to help market and relist properties. I just want to kind of open it up and see, does anybody have anything that they've done that's been successful that that I haven't talked about on the list, or we haven't kind of gone over? Any other thoughts or feedback here? Because I know that you know, there's a ton of experience on here. Letty, I see you, and Michelle, that kind of stuff. So, like, do you guys have anything that you want to offer in terms of advice or things that you've seen?
Oh, I was gonna say something. I just got a listing, an agent, KW agent, overpriced the listing, and I had sold a listing in Decula about a year ago, and so the agent called me and come to find out she was my sorority sister, but I told her that I really couldn't speak with her because she had to, and when
Yeah,
she,
right, yeah.
when she, when we get it right. But anyway, long story short, she did, and someone going to be listing the property. So I told her when the first conversation I had with her. So I always tell my clients or anybody I'm looking at, I said, my little script is this. I'm gonna work really hard for you, and I want to let you know this. I treat your money like my money, and then I tell them we go over the comps because I do it 7 different ways, sources, and then when they would say, "Oh, Letty, I want to list at $50,000 higher," so then I say this. You know what? I would love to sell your house really for $1 million, but let me tell you what the buyers are buying your house and your condition at. And so I want to put you as, put your buyer hat on. And then I tell them, if you was buying, would you buy your house? So this is her house is 50,000, then the other houses, and then it's like they see the light. So sometimes you want to tell them to put a buyer's hat, even though they're selling their home, they got to think like a buyer because when they go in and looking at it, that's the script reverse psychology I use, and I usually get a lot of price reductions like that. So yeah.
Great advice. Thank you, Letty. Any other thoughts, advice?
I'll just say that it's really good to put them, let them know what the market is doing when their house is on the market. So I always I allow the system to send them anything that's in their community or around their community that goes on the market, that goes under contract. That definitely helps when I need to lower the price. And then the other thing that I do with some people, I tell them, like you said, I work with a lender, and I tell them how much would it be for a buyer to buy their monthly amount. And when I tell them, sometimes they say, "Oh no, I wouldn't pay that for this house." So, giving them information a lot of times will help you get to what you need them to do, because it is just not fun to have a listing that doesn't sell. And when I look back at it, I feel like, there were, like you said, Alan, I can't just take every one of them anymore. I don't want to have listings that don't sell. And especially when I know why it didn't sell. So
Right.
I've since changed my mind about that.
Yeah. Now, there was a question asking about the system that you use to send that out. Is that going to be going through Showing Time or using RPR? What are you using to send that data to the sellers?
Well, a lot of times I just use like Georgia MLS or FMLS. I do a save search and I send that to them.
Okay.
I also have used in the past, and I still have, Listing Track, but it used to be free, but now they charge you for it. They
Yeah.
love to see, like, this is what I do sometimes with that Listing Track. They can see how many times someone at Zillow looked at it, how many times they saved it. I said, funny, people are saving your listing, but we don't have any offers. Why do you think that is? And a lot of times it's because it's overpriced. But anyway, so it helps the conversation,
Yeah.
the more information that you give them, because a lot of times they're listening to other people who do not know real estate.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you, Michelle. Now, is anybody else using like Showing Time to provide feedback for their sellers? We do find that to be very, very helpful. Because you can have the comments sent directly to your sellers as well now. Well, if not, you need to. So, yeah. All right. Does anybody have any other pieces of advice? Any other thoughts here? So I've had you almost an hour, so I know we got. Well, hopefully, we're gonna go sell. Yeah, who's up?
May I ask a
Come
question?
on,
It's
Lynn. Yeah.
not about, it's off, probably off script. I have a question, like, what platforms do you guys use to see if it's a seller's market, buyer's market, balanced market? I use RPR, but then I hear discussion about, although RPR says it's a seller's market, if listings are not moving in a certain area, it switches to a buyer's market. What's your take on that?
Well, the challenge is real estate is still hyper local, and so it's going to depend on the data source. And so, like, I like to use the MLSs first and foremost. And so both in Georgia MLS and FMLS, you can see what the absorption rates are, but you can even break it down by county, by zip code to help. I mean, right now Zillow is listing, Georgia in Zillow is listed as a balanced market, but we dipped into a buyer's market according to Zillow for like 2-3 months, and then it went back to a more balanced market. And really, I just see where days on market are kind of, we are sitting right at about 4.5 months of standing inventory. That is not the same for every price point, but overall, we're at 4.5 months. We need 6 months of inventory in order to have a balanced market. The challenge is when you break it by area, but also by price point. Because right now we have a lot of listings over $700,000, and we really are kind of in a buyer's market in that segment, because we have more listings than we have buyers there. But like if you're looking at properties under 200,000, I got way more buyers than I have sellers. So it's a seller's market there. So we're in a weird place where, depending on price and depending on location, you could be in a buyer's or a seller's market on there. So there isn't just like a very good straight answer for that, Lynn. I'm sorry. I know that's terrible. Like maybe, but that's kind of where we're at on that one. So
Okay, thank you.
sure. All right. The last thing I want to touch on is the NAR just came out with a revision to the clear cooperation policy, and that is going to impact sellers a little bit in the future. With the clear cooperation policy now, we have the ability to be able to, in my opinion, do some things that are kind of like pocket listings, and that scares me. That worries me. We have some very large brokerages, national brokerages, that have been pushing hard to have the clear cooperation policy wiped out. And basically what they want to do is they want to take a listing, only market it inside their company, and they want to double in deals. And I think that this is one of those things that it's only good if, I think it's only good for the brokers and for the agents. I don't think that it's good for the consumers at all, because we know that properties that aren't listed inside the MLS sell for less, right? That for sale by owners sell for less. Properties not inside the MLS, there's been all sorts of surveys done. Bright MLS did a really thoughtful one that spanned 5 years, looking at how much less properties sell for that aren't listed inside the multiple listing service. Zillow's done one, Redfin's done one, and they all come out the same, that sellers end up losing. The other thing I have a big concern with is fair housing. If I have this listing, but I'm only showing this to these people, well, is that really getting all the exposure that property needs? So I find it to be very dangerous and not a good thing for our industry overall. If you are thinking about doing pocket listings, be very, very careful with it, because now there's a new disclosure required, where the seller has to explicitly agree that they don't want their property marketed, because it's really confusing the way some brokers and some agents have been talking about trying to market their homes. They think it's going in the MLS, but it's not really. And so be very careful doing that. Now, this just came through last week, and so we don't have all the data points on this one yet. but just be, like when you are listing property, you want it to go to as many people as possible. It's what's best for our consumers, it's best for our sellers, it's best for our buyers, and it's best for our industry. So there will be more coming about this discussion as it moves forward, but I just wanted to kind of throw that in there, kind of in the wrap up. So, does anybody else have anything? All right, I love you guys. Thanks so
Thank you,
much for
Alan.
joining
That was
us.
good.
All right, thanks guys. I'll talk to y'all soon. Bye bye.